What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Ducks Dish podcast. I'm your host, Max Torres, publisher and lead editor of Ducks Digest, covering the Oregon Ducks for Sports Illustrated. Over on Fan Nation, we got a recruiting interview in today's episode of the podcast. I am joined by 2023 tight end CJ Jacobsen from Rocky Mountain High School in Meridian, Idaho. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad to have you on and get to talk a little bit about your recruiting journey and you as a player. So just a couple easy ones to start off. What's your height and weight looking like?
So I've been measured like right under 6'5" at some places, and then right at 6'5", and I'm like exactly at 230.
Okay, yeah, definitely got the build for a tight end then. And then you're still at Rocky Mountain High School. Is Meridian, Idaho, your hometown? Are you originally from there?
No, I'm actually originally from Salt Lake, and so are my parents, but I moved here like when I was pretty little, so I've lived in Meridian ever since.
Okay, right on. Yeah, and I know you were out at Utah recently, so definitely gonna have to ask you about that trip. But before we get into all the recruiting stuff, man, just wanted to get to know you as an athlete a little bit. Let's wind back the clock a little bit. How did you get into football? What's your football story, if you can break that down for us?
So I've kind of always been around football. My dad actually played college football at Utah, and so his older brother played there as well. So I've kind of been around football ever since I was little, and my dad signed me up like as soon as I could. So I pretty much played ever since I was able to, and I've loved it ever since.
Okay, so you got the dad connection, which is obviously going to help you get into it. I feel like most dads are kind of, especially if they're athletes, they're like, I want my son or daughter to play my sport. So it sounds like it worked out with you developing a love for the game.
Yeah, definitely.
So we got some of your highlights for those folks that are watching us on YouTube at Oregon Football Max Torres is where you can find us. How would you describe your play style, CJ? What do you kind of like to pride yourself on and make a name for yourself with?
So I've pretty much this last year, I only got to play the last 4 games. I actually broke my finger like a week before our first game, and I had to get surgery. So it's kind of unfortunate, but I had really good sophomore film, and I kind of played receiver my whole life until this last year. I've kind of transitioned to a tight end, like a flex tight end, and that's kind of what I'm going to be focusing a lot this fall, moving all over the place, kind of like how college football is starting to use the tight end a lot. And so that's kind of what a lot of schools have told me is they would like me to I'm going to play a little bit inline my senior year, but more of like just a flex in the like motion in the backfield, line up all over the place. So I feel like that's, because I've moved pretty well for my size. So I kind of feel like that's what I can bring.
Okay. Yeah, the size and speed and athleticism is something that certainly stands out a lot about the tight end position. How do you kind of react to that? Just making that transition from wide out to tight end, where you can have that skill work translate over, but you gotta get with the physicality and the blocking schemes. How's that transition kind of been?
It's been good. I'm kind of focusing this year, moving in a little bit, like blocking more in line, as I've usually just been blocking, corners and DBs, which I feel like is harder than blocking in line because, their DBs are pretty quick. So, especially on like screen pass, you have to chase them down and everything. So I feel like that kind of helps moving into blocking in line more as outside. So, I'm not really too worried about that.
Yeah, I can see how it's a little hard you got to get out to those guys and get hands on them, get a body on them to block for those screenplays like you were mentioning. Another thing that's kind of interesting, CJ, is I feel like there's not a whole lot of longstanding history of top tier players coming out of Idaho. It's a little bit of an underrated football state. What's the high school scene kind of like out there for those that maybe aren't up to speed on it?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And within the last 2 years, it's kind of picked up. I have one of my good friends who's a senior this year. He actually signed with Michigan to go play tight end, and he's from like a small. I'm not, Meridian's like right outside Boise, so I'm not in a small town, but uh, the level our high school is the biggest high school in Idaho, so we play like 5A, so we still play pretty good competition, and so I feel like that's kind of starting to come to light, and because a lot of people think of Idaho, they would assume it's like there isn't much competition, but I don't know. I just feel like it's starting not to get as slept on.
Okay. Yeah, gotta get some more exposure for you guys out there. I'm not sure if you heard it at all, but the audio is actually just a tad scratchy during your last answer, so I don't know if you're covering the mic or anything. Hopefully we can get that figured out, but I just wanted to pass that along in case you were holding your phone a certain way. But we'll work with it. All right, yeah. So we're getting a good hand on what the Idaho scene's kind of like. Some guys are starting to come out of there on a more regular basis. Let's shift into the recruiting process a little bit, because that's something you've been super busy with lately. We got recent offers coming in from Washington State and Utah, so congratulations on those offers.
Thank you.
What's the recruiting process just been like for you? How do you view it? Is it something you're just like relishing? Is it kind of overwhelming? Where do you stand with that?
So since like January, my recruiting's kind of like taken off a little bit. I think right now I'm at 12 offers, and I think I've gotten like 8 since January. So, it can be overwhelming at times, but I don't really feel too overwhelmed. I kind of enjoy, being able to talk to a bunch of different coaches, and especially go on visits, and kind of like, I think that's the most important thing to find out, like the fit for you. So I've enjoyed it so far, but when it gets down to that time when it's time to make a decision, I mean, I feel like it's gonna be a little bit difficult, but when that time comes, I'll be dealing with that.
You're putting yourself in a good position to have some awesome choices, getting out to see various parts of the country on some of these visits. So it was a little bit of a homecoming of sorts for you to go to Utah this weekend. Wanted to talk about that trip out to Salt Lake and seeing Kyle Whittingham and the Utes.
Yeah, so they've been recruiting me for a while now, and also, like I said, missing my junior season or almost all my junior season was kind of a bummer, and I feel like that also kind of put a hold on recruiting for a little bit. But I've had some great 7-on-7 film from the spring, and so that's kind of opened it up back up by me being able to showcase my abilities, and so that's what finally got Utah to pull the trigger. Because they were close, and then they just didn't know yet, just because of how much I missed, and I've sent them all my stuff this spring, and they loved it. So it was definitely fun to get back down there. And Coach Whittingham actually coached my dad his senior year at Utah, so most of the coaches that have played with my dad were on staff when he was there. So yeah, it was definitely exciting to get that offer, especially Utah just coming off a Pac-12 championship win. It was definitely really like fun time down there.
Yeah, they beat Oregon in the Pac-12 championship. I know a lot of my listeners and viewers are going to be upset about that one, bringing that one back up. But it is an interesting time for Utah, because that's their first Pac-12 championship since joining the conference, I think just about a decade ago or so. So that's notable. And then Kyle Whittingham has really established himself as one of the, I feel like, I don't know if I'd say premier, but certainly a very reputable coach in college football. So where do you think the Utes are headed right now with Whittingham at the helm? And then it looks like they're starting to pick up some steam, getting some big time names in the recruiting game.
Yeah, I definitely think they're gonna have a season this year, just like they did this last year. They have a bunch of their star guys returning. Their quarterback, Cam Rising, is a really good quarterback, and both of their, Utah's made a name in the country with how much tight end usage they use. Like, those are their two main receiving targets, and so they have both of Keithy and Kincaid back this year. And the interesting thing, as they talked about yesterday with me, is when those two graduate is when my class will be coming in. So, if that's definitely intriguing. And so I think Whittingham still has he's been there for a long time. But I think he's still got some good years left in him. So I think the program is, not going to be slowing down anytime soon.
It was wild to hear a little bit of rumors or chatter about him potentially retiring after last season. Like, okay, he won the Pac-12. Like, I kind of reacted to that. I'm like, why would you leave now? Like, you feel like you're just kind of hitting stride and getting that momentum to carry forward. So I'm excited to see what the Utes have in store for sure. I think they got to be the premier team in the Pac-12 South right now, even with Lincoln Riley taking over at USC. I think they'll be two teams to watch without a doubt. CJ, you recently made your way out to Eugene for a visit with the Ducks, and I'm sure people are excited for me to get to that part of the interview, seeing that was a cool trip for you. So let me see if I can share my screen again and get some of these cool photos up here. So you made it out to Eugene. Just wanted to talk about what it was like for you being on that visit and maybe a highlight or two.
Yeah, so that the visit was definitely one top 3 visits that I've been on. I've been to a lot of schools. I went with my dad and my brother, and I've been to Portland quite a bit for basketball. But I've never been to Eugene, so neither is my dad. So we really enjoyed it, and it honestly felt like an official visit, like how some of the visits I've been on, it felt like similar. They had me there at beginning of meetings all the way till like 5:00. So I was there like all day, got to sit through all the meetings. And it was also nice because I was like the only recruit on campus. So, I got to spend time with Coach Lanning, and it was also really great, like being in the tight end room and watching how the tight ends and work with Coach Maringer. And, it was just a really good experience. And, Coach Lanning talked to me for a while, and it sounds like they have very high interest in me. So that was definitely something that I was excited to hear about, because I've ever since being out there, I've definitely Oregon's got high on my interest level, and I know Coach Maringer's coming to visit me in May when they start having their coaches hit the road. So I'll be looking forward to that.
Okay, so we got some pretty high praise for the Ducks on that visit. I think you said it was top 3 of the ones that you've taken. How was that? How was maybe Oregon's approach, or just the way the visit went? How was that different from other schools that made it stand out so much for you?
Yeah, so it was similar to like my other favorite visits, but I have like an offer to those schools, so it made it like, kind of surprising that they were treating me with, such such a priority, especially my first time being out there. So, it was because we didn't really know what to expect, and so that definitely caught my eyes. Like, okay, and how Oregon's, a nationally top program that like this is like the real deal, so, it definitely made me feel like I could see myself in Eugene.
And now that you've been home for a while, got out to Utah, so I'm sure you've been able to kind of compare them a little bit, but I'm not going to ask you to compare them. What was your favorite part about your time spent in Eugene during that visit?
I really did enjoy being in all the meetings and seeing, how the players and the coaching staff interact. And, that's the thing about when I've gone to visits all over the country, is it's nice to be able to see the different types of coaching staffs, because, there's some that are like older and younger, and, Oregon's is fairly like a younger coaching staff. And I think they seem like a really player-friendly coaching staff. In the meetings, everyone was having fun, and the players seemed really engaged, but like not like they're still having fun, and coaches are like messing with them. And it just seemed, and then especially being in the tight end room, like everyone just feels, just had like a really good vibe, I feel like. And that's somewhere that's not at every school. That's also the benefit of just comparing after going on many visits. So that was definitely one of my favorite parts, of just being able to be in the meeting. And also how in the past, like I've been saying, Oregon Coach Cristobal didn't really use the tight ends too much and in the passing game. And now Coach Maringer told me that they're planning on, playing 2 to 3 all the time. And we watch their practice and the film, and that's definitely how it looks. So that's, kind of the offense that I'm looking to fit into when I make my decision. So yeah, that definitely was exciting to hear.
All right. So we got you're liking the vibe out in Eugene among the players, among the program. Sounds like they're going to be getting the tight ends more involved, something that I definitely want to see just with all the talent that they have in that room. Spencer Webb, Terrence Ferguson, talked to Maliki yesterday after practice. So definitely plenty of talent that's waiting to be utilized. Before I get you out of here, CJ, I know you're heading to BYU at the end of the month. I think is what I saw that you tweeted, if that's still the plan. BYU is another one of those programs that I think is on the rise. Going to the Big 12 here in the future is only going to help. I think the perception of BYU. Heck, they're playing Oregon in the non-con next year. Tell me what you're liking about BYU and what you're going to have your eye on when you see the Cougars.
So yeah, I really like how, you know, they're also another team that uses the tight ends quite a bit in the passing game. That's one of their main focuses in the offense, is getting the ball to the tight ends. So I really like that, and also them going to the Big 12 is huge. You know, there's really good competition in the Big 12. So, and Coach Roderick, the offensive coordinator, and the tight ends coach, Coach Clark, they both coached my dad at some point at Utah. So, you know, they still have a good relationship with my dad, and Coach Clark visited me back in January before they offered me, and you know, I really like those two, and so, you know, I just kind of want to get down and see. You know, that's kind of how I've been narrowing my list down this spring, is kind of just visiting the schools that have, you know, serious interest in me, and I have serious interest in them. And so, you know, I'm kind of excited to get down there and just see, you know, kind of similar to what I've been looking at every other visit that I've gone, and just how the players and the coaches interact, and just kind of the vibe of being around everyone.
CJ, you mentioned that you're kind of narrowing it down as you're on these visits. Last question I had for you is what's the decision timeline looking like for you? You know, what's the ideal scenario about when you're making that call?
I haven't put a set date yet exactly. I'm not ruling out committing during the summer. I might, you know, I just kind of want to, that's what I've been kind of trying to narrow it down this spring, just so that when it gets time for that decision, that it's not so hard to make. But I definitely want to get through this summer and just be able to see, you know, I plan on taking some officials this summer and kind of just seeing what happens. Like, you know, because Oregon hasn't offered me yet, and, you know, they want to get me back out there, and they're visiting me next month. So I kind of just want to be able to weigh all my options and see what happens. So I could possibly be committing before the season, but if not, I hope to be committed before my season ends and sign in December. So.
All right, we're getting an update on the timeline there for you. Well, last but not least, CJ, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Where can people find more of you? Want to give you a chance to plug your social media platforms if you'd like.
Yeah, so I'm assuming, are you gonna tweet this out?
Yeah, I'll tweet it. It'll be on YouTube, everything.
So yeah, I'm most active on my Twitter and my Instagram. So my Instagram's _CJ_Jacobsen_.
Okay, and then your Twitter.
CJ Jacobsen1.
All right, there we go. Well, that'll do it for us here on the Ducks Dish podcast. Thank you to CJ for taking some time out to talk about his recruiting, his football journey. If you guys want to find more of me, you can follow me on Twitter at mtorresports. You can find me on YouTube at Oregon Football Max Torres. Kindly ask that you smash the like button and subscribe. It's a tremendous help to what we're doing. And then go ahead and share the podcast to other Duck fans who like to follow recruiting, because that's kind of what we're all about here. But that'll do it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode. Take care.